Alright, as always, you can go to YouTube channel My Medical Nightmare and see 40 plus hours video on everything that happened to me. Alright, Dr. Scott Katzman. You can see several hours documentation on my interaction with this doctor based in the state of Florida and New Jersey, and his associate, Dr. Wayne J. Broth MD. I've got scanned records, emails, as well as recorded telephone exchanges that you can listen to between myself and the offices of these doctors. They're up on my YouTube channel. I sent images of a very serious broken skull based injury to these doctors. They stated as such in email and telephone calls that they reviewed these images and that no injuries appeared. And this was not true. I had a lot of strange problems crop up in the process of getting my free MRI analysis from these doctors. Sent the pictures in early 2022. There was a brief period of back and forth email exchange between myself and the office of this doctor. Then in an email, I was asked about insurance information. I, of course, have no insurance. I have no source of income. And despite them offering a free MRI review, at this point, 5 months of silence set in. So they lost interest in helping me out despite their free service. Finally, 5 months later, I was contacted and told that Dr. Wayne J. Broth, who works with Orthopedic and Laser Spine Surgery of Florida, had reviewed my records that I sent in and wanted to do the consultation all of a sudden, out of the blue, really. Yeah, go up there to YouTube and listen to that telephone call with Dr. Broth, and you'll hear he tries to convince me for most of the call that I have no injury present. Finally, I asked for this doctor's first name, and he all of a sudden wanted to get off the telephone. So this is very suspicious. Alright, WPTV NBC Channel 5 of West Palm Beach, Florida, USA, did an investigation news piece in 2019 which mentions Dr. Scott Katzman. Hundreds of Florida doctors with multiple malpractice payouts still seeing patients. And they write here, hundreds of Florida doctors who have paid out multiple malpractice claims are still seeing patients 15 years after voters passed a law that was supposed to take away their licenses. They mention a patient here who Dr. Scott Katzman performed surgery on, only to die, apparently from complications involving that surgery days later. And WPTV looked into Dr. Katzman's medical license online and mentions that he had been disciplined one time by the state of Florida Medical Board for performing at least 3 surgeries at centers that had not been licensed yet to provide that surgery. He was fined and given a written reprimand. According to a check of state of Florida records, WPTV Channel 5 found that Dr. Katzman's insurance paid out more than $1.6 million involving 7 malpractice cases and 2 patient deaths in the state of Florida as of 2019. And they mentioned problems here with having the Florida Board of Medicine and concerns that they are not doing enough to regulate the activities of doctors named in malpractice situations. I filed complaints against Orthopedic and Laser Spine Surgery, Dr. Scott Katzman, and Dr. Wayne J. Broth with the Florida Department of Health in 2022. I had a lot of problems with the Department of Health not looking into my case. They stalled the investigation for 4 months. At one point, they told me that my records that I provided were not complete. I argued that they had more than enough material to go on. They weren't interested in the emails which contained IP addresses which the state of Florida could have traced back to Dr. Katzman's computers, for example. They weren't interested in the recorded telephone calls between myself and Dr. Wayne Broth. They could have easily called the doctor's number and spoke to him. You can hear my recorded telephone calls with the representatives of the Florida Department of Health on my YouTube channel. And eventually, they simply would not investigate my case and my complaints, despite the fact that there are these numerous judgments, disciplinary actions, as well as these news reports in the media detailing the actions of this doctor. I think the state of Florida is simply lazy. The Florida Department of Health, Dr. Scott Katzman, Wayne J. Broth, and Orthopedic Laser Spine Surgery in the state of Florida. These are all very untrustworthy outfits. And prospective patients out there, do your research before you seek health treatment in the state of Florida.